Fantastic.
Yes.
I want to welcome all of you, and is this mic on? Can you hear me? I don't think
It's working.
I don't think it's working, but we're going to ditch it.
We can talk about it. Okay. I'm Diane Dixon. I'm Assembly member from Assembly District 72 from Steele Beach, Huntington Beach, Newport Beach, Laguna Beach, and then inland. Drug and alcohol treatment centers are a serious issue, not only in our coastal cities, but in many cities across California. Thank you all for being here today. At long last, we have the results of the state auditor's report of licensed drug and alcohol treatment facilities as managed by the State Department of Healthcare Services, also known as DHCS. And thank you to the state auditor, the California State Auditor, and their team of doing this audit. That was requested about a year or so ago, and so I'm very pleased, and it's very revealing, and I'll share many of the highlights with you. I'm also pleased to be here with my elected colleagues from Orange County, all of whom represent communities that are dealing with this, and also our speakers here who are not elected, but they are experiencing as operators or residents, they are experiencing the impact of this particular issue that we're dealing with. My bottom line, or our bottom line question today, are the residents in these facilities, the DHCS facilities, getting well? And we don't believe they're getting well in the current system the way it is structured. After detoxification and counseling, which are two of the 6 defined roles of these facilities, these licensed state facilities, are they recovered from their addiction, or are they in need of further treatment? How are these patients case managed by licensed facilities? This audit does not address these issues. This audit tells us what we don't know, though, importantly, and today is, I can't read my own writing. It is, we're seeking to illuminate, and this is really what's revealing to me personally, the high level of complexity of alcohol and drug addiction rehabilitative services in the state of California. My colleague, I'll tell you who's speaking today, who will be speaking, my colleague Assemblymember Laurie Davies, who's co-chair of the Sober Living Task Force of Orange County, will be speaking about the issues in her district. The governor recently signed one of her key bills. I'm sure she'll be talking about that related to licensed rehabilitation facilities. I'm pleased to be joined by our supervisor, Katrina Foley, who's been in the trench, and also co-chair of the Sober Living Task Force, who's been in the trenches on this issue with me for a long time, since we both served on our respective city councils and as mayors in Costa Mesa for Supervisor Foley and Newport Beach for me. In her current role, Supervisor Foley continues to advocate for a better system of rehabilitation and accountability. Finally, I'm pleased to have an example of a very good operator, Elizabeth Steele, who's Executive Director, President of New Directions for Women, here to speak on the operating standards of excellent operators of drug and alcohol facilities, and what are the clear red flags of problem facilities that we need to be aware of. We also have a South County resident, Sarah Schneider, founder of San Clemente SW Alliance. What is SW? Southwest Alliance, who will talk about just one example of the Department of Healthcare Services falling short in regulating licensed facilities. Let's get started. The services at the licensed treatment facilities, licensed treatment facilities, these facilities, they are not curing people. This is a major aha moment for me. They're not curing. They are providing a limited menu scope of services as defined by the state of California. Detoxification, individual counseling sessions, group counseling sessions, educational sessions, incidental medical services, and recovery planning. Southern California, as we know, contains a large concentration, this is a key finding, of licensed treatment facilities serving 6 or fewer residents, and they're known as small facilities under state law, than other parts of the state. However, state law, which is nearly 50 years old, that established these criteria, allows facilities to be located near each other and have the same legal owners. And this is part of the issue, because local authorities may use the zoning requirement to more strictly regulate facilities serving more than 6 residents, which are large facilities. An operator may group small facilities in the same area to avoid certain zoning regulations and reduce their operating costs. The audit identified two facility groupings or concentrations in San Diego County and in Orange County, including one that advertised a group of small facilities as a campus. The audit confirmed some key concerns regarding licensing. Inspections of treatment facilities take too long. Investigations don't even happen. Sometimes there is infrequent follow-up after wrongdoing is found. Importantly, the auditor's office noted over-concentrations of small facilities of 6 people or fewer that are operating with the same owner, management, or shared amenities. These over-concentrations go directly against the intent of the legislature in that original law and the state to deinstitutionalize these patients and help them integrate into our neighborhoods and communities. They have created institutions by allowing people to, by closing down the original state institutions, they've now created, the state law has allowed smaller institutions within residential communities by having too many facilities grouped together near each other in proximity to each other and run by the same company with different licenses. In other words, they're institutions. This seems to be skirting the law when it comes to large facilities, and the changes to local zoning laws over the past 4 decades has tied the hands of local government. Bottom line, while DHCS's investigations appear to be thorough, they are not always done, not always timely, and not followed up on. And this audit that's completed, I'm very complimentary to the state auditors by revealing that this is really just the beginning of our challenge to get our arms around this very complex issue. Alcohol and drug treatment facilities have long lacked transparency and data, and now we know more of what these facilities are not licensed to do. This is the first step in developing data to ensure these facilities are working to provide the services they are licensed to provide. And if not, how do we create the requirements necessary to truly rehabilitate individuals and provide them a safe place for care? This audit opens the door to data that tells us the current licensing structure may not be adequate to provide the necessary rehabilitative treatments patients require. We need to address the shortcomings of the law.
You want to pass that on? Yeah? Did you want to pass on?
I'm sorry?
To your other speakers? Do you want to pass to your other speakers?
I just...
Yeah.
So I just want to repeat that there's still more work to be done, and this is just the beginning. So I'm going to turn this over to Assemblymember Davies, and then we'll continue after the Assemblywoman. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Laurie Davies. I'm the State Assemblywoman for the 74th District. We're here this morning to discuss the release of the California State Auditor's Report on the state of drug and alcohol treatment facilities in our state. I authored AB 2081 this year, which was signed by the governor and helps to create more transparency for patients seeking care here in California. After the release of this audit, however, the path towards ensuring patient safety and care has become much more clear. One major issue we're facing now has to do with the amount of time it takes for DHCS to effectively investigate complaints made by patients. Complaints regarding treatment facilities are split into 3 priority categories for the DHCS: low, medium, and high, with high priority complaints relating to things like the death of a patient. During an investigation, the DHCS generally tries to submit their findings between 30 and 60 days from the beginning. Unfortunately, due to the lack of investigators employed by the DHCS, this submission target is rarely hit. The median time to submit files for a low priority investigation was found to be 382 days. Medium was 348 days, while high priority investigations took up to 84 days to complete. We're talking a year. However, it was found some of these investigations took upwards of 800 days to complete. It shows that DHCS is overwhelmed with the amount of facilities and complaints received with their current staffing levels. These delays have serious impacts on the health and treatment of patients, with some cases taking well over a year to resolve. There can be serious consequences on the lives of those actively seeking help. Now, with the passage of Proposition 1, we're expecting an influx of treatment facilities, especially here in Orange County. But we as a state don't have the necessary oversights to effectively ensure all of these facilities are operating safely. While I was serving as president on the Association of California Cities, Orange County, our Sober Living Task Force worked with legislatures to put forth a bill that would be a pilot program that would allow the County of Orange County to hire and cover the expenses to have inspectors that would cover the sober living homes just in OC. This bill died in Sacramento. We need to divert some of the $6.38 billion from Proposition 1 to DHCS so that they can employ more investigators and finally get ahead of the issues we are seeing with these treatment facilities. 800 days is unacceptable. Time frame for an investigation to be concluded, but only with 20 investigators to cover the host state and more than 800 complaints a year, it seems like an almost impossible task for them to reach. We can't just keep throwing money at this issue without a serious plan and without proper oversight to ensure the safety of people who made themselves so vulnerable so they could take back their lives. We also need stronger checks on the staff employed by these facilities. It was found in an audit that not all employees had proof that they were even authorized to provide treatment services to the patients. Could you imagine going to the same doctor for a year only to find out that they're not even trained to treat you? That's immoral. Not all facilities are like this though. This audit revealed a lot of great things occurring in our treatment facilities, and we need to promote and help the people who are doing the right thing so that they too can be positive influences on others looking for treatment. Without the good actors, we also lose a lot of insight and valuable information for how we can continue to innovate and provide the best treatment possible. It's a relationship I cherish and one that we must continue to strengthen. Orange County has the second highest number of treatment facilities behind only LA County. However, per resident, we have the highest density of facilities. And most of the time, these facilities are in residential neighborhoods here in Orange County. The goal is to reintegrate them into the community, but this isn't always the case. As moving to a new place, people and friends away, extremely overwhelming. On top of the potential of not receiving proper treatment, it's a recipe for disaster. We need to ensure that these facilities are actively trying to uphold the principles of the neighborhoods they are in, and that they are able to assimilate back into the community. If not, then we need to take measures to not only help that community, but also get the patients into a different environment where they will be successful. Since my time in the Assembly, my team and I have been fighting for improving transparency and oversight for treatment facilities. And I am recommitted to continue to do so until everyone is able to get treatment that they deserve. We need to put patients over profit. Again, thank you so much for being here today and for listening and learning about this important issue. If we begin to take action now, we can prevent this from spiraling out of control and help save lives. Thank you.
Yay.
Before I turn over to Assemblymember, our Supervisor Foley, I just hope Channel 4, where are you? I just want to make sure your microphone is okay. Okay, thank you. I've neglected to introduce some local officials we have with us today. Councilmember Robin Graham from the City of Newport Beach, and Councilmember Ted Bowie from the City of Fountain Valley. And also I neglected to introduce an important person, State Senator Janet Wynn, who will be speaking right after Supervisor Foley. Supervisor Foley.
Thank you. Okay, good morning. I'm Katrina Foley, County Supervisor, representing the 5th District. The 5th District includes Costa Mesa, where I live and where I served as a council member, mayor, and now as your county supervisor, all the way down to San Clemente, 14 communities strong, and where the highest concentration of unregulated sober living home facilities are located. Since 2015, when I was a city council member, I have been working diligently with our state partners, with Assemblywoman Kati Petrie-Norris, with Assemblywoman Sharon Quirk Silva, and with these women behind me. And it is the women that have been trying to, I mean, I have to point it out. It is the women who have been trying very diligently to protect patients and to make sure that we have facilities in Orange County and across the state of California that are legitimate, medical, professional, and credible, and that actually care about helping people, not just about making a profit. As the city council member and mayor of the city of Costa Mesa, we put forth the first model ordinance. The county adopted that ordinance, and since I've been the county supervisor, we have been identifying ways that we can get other cities on board, 34 cities here in Orange County, to adopt the ordinance. We've also advocated for regulatory changes, rational, reasonable changes. Many of the things that Assemblywoman Dixon pointed out, many of the issues that were identified in the audit, we have advocated for. Senator Umberg last year advocated to have local control, so that in part at the request of the city of Newport Beach, if I recall, to have local control to be able to have inspectors here at the county to be able to inspect these locations. Since I've been elected, we have dealt with individuals sending their family members to Orange County for help from areas like Ohio, New Jersey, Iowa, all around the whole country, thinking that when they come here, they're going to be safe and protected and that they will be helped. And we've seen overdoses happen in these facilities. We've seen improper medication and individuals leaving the facility and being shot to death in Newport Beach. Unnecessary things that are terrible tragedies for both the individuals that are the victims because they had intruders come into their homes, as well as the family members of the individuals who were killed. We can no longer just allow the state to ignore us. When we went last year to Sacramento to advocate to the health committee, and we laid out all the data, we laid out all the facts, we introduced rational bills that we were supporting to help regulate this industry that's wrought with fraud. And what happened? We were ignored. I remember sitting in a tiny little room where they were like, it was a sweat box. I felt like it was on purpose. And they were ignoring us. They didn't believe us. And we have the data to show when you use good practices, when you have credible, medically professional, trained individuals helping people, it works. New Directions for Women is a perfect example. The Hazelton program is a perfect example. So we have models. And I will say I speak on this issue with a lot of background, experience, and personal experience. I have a close family member who needed treatment and help this last year. I would never, ever allow them to be treated in a location here in Orange County. And so that is the problem. We do not have facilities here in Orange County that are professional and that help to treat people who are in need. And we should have regulations. If we can regulate all these things that we regulate in California, we can regulate when people are intending to care for our most vulnerable at their weakest moment, and we can take care of them. Taking 800 days or a year or even a month to investigate something, a complaint, is just unacceptable. And so we must do better, we must do more, and the county is committed to working on these issues. That's why we are advocating for the model we're proposing, where we have an orange campus, where treatment and residential treatment is right there on site on the campus. And in Irvine, we're building out a campus. It's not little homes in neighborhoods where people are not being managed or helped. It's facilities, like medically professional facilities, where people can be attended to when they're in a crisis, where detox can be managed and monitored so people don't go into seizure or any other medical situation, and where we can actually help people. So that's the goal. We're trying to help people, and we just hope that the state can understand that this is not about NIMBYism. This is about professional treatment and about caring for our community, because we do have a drug epidemic here in California, and we must treat it in the proper way. So thank you. I want to point out one more thing. I'm going to get this. I'm going to use this, yes. And this goes to the assembly member's point here. I mean, look at all these facilities that are all here in Orange County. I mean, this over-concentration is just unacceptable for Orange County. We should not be allowing rogue operators who are just relying on insurance to take advantage of our beautiful county and not actually help anyone. So please help us, send letters and emails and call your state legislators. And I know that our entire Orange County delegation is here for you. So thank you, Assemblymember Dixon, for hosting this, and we're happy to help host for you.
All together, yes. Thank you, Supervisor.
All right.
Yes, it's hard for us to find anyone who's opposed to this. Well, I mean, what
Except
is
for
it?
the state.
The state of
And
California.
you have to ask yourself, why? What are they afraid of?
And just as the supervisor said, the state, which I disagree with a lot of regulations from the state of California, but this is an area that needs to be better regulated because people need to get well. And I'll turn it over to the state senator, Janet Wynn, if you'd like to make a few remarks, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblymember Dixon. Again, I'm Senator Janet Wynn. I represent the 36th Senate District, which represents a majority of Orange, actually almost half of Orange County cities. And all three, our Supervisor Katrina Foley, Assemblymember Davies, and Assemblymember Dixon are all part of my district. California wants to overregulate almost everything, as mentioned. Like the type of car you buy, how you remodel your house, what water faucet you are allowed to buy, or whether you can have a plastic bag at the grocery store. Strangely though, there's one area that they were begging for regulation, and it's been largely ignored. Residential treatment facilities, specifically sober living homes. Over the last 8 years, we've had 13 sober living home bills to help communities and patients living in these facilities. A few of these bills passed, but the strongest ones and the ones that will help and make the most impact to protect our communities and residents are the one that dies and doesn't even get through. We are still lacking the hammer, a state requirement that these homes have a license, no matter how many people live there. Sober living homes are a business, not a family unit. Currently, the state does not require any license for sober living homes, but they do issue licenses for homes providing drug and alcohol treatment. It's safe to say that we don't know how many of these homes are all over our communities. There could be hundreds. The state has even forbidden cities from requiring use permits for sober living homes with 6 or fewer residents. A number of cities, including that are in my district, Huntington Beach, Fountain Valley, Newport Beach, have stepped up by requiring the homes to have use permits if 7 or more people live there. And so I want to thank 2 of our council members who are here today. This includes spacing requirements so that we don't have to have multiple homes on just one street. We find out when home operators move into neighborhoods because residents complain, saying that children are harassed walking home from school, or strangers are asking them if they want to buy drugs. A big tip-off is also when residents are constantly standing outside smoking. This drives down property values, but more important, the safety of the neighborhood. Families do not feel safe in their own neighborhoods, and often children can no longer play in their front yards. And that's a big deal. Cities have done all they can, and I support them completely. And all of us legislators, and as mentioned, it is a bipartisan effort in Orange County. All of us have author bills, co-author bills, and help each other to push these bills forward. We need more from the state. For example, at a bare minimum, the Department of Healthcare Services needs a website with decent information. Californians can look up whether the doctors or hospital has any complaints or violation. The Health Department and Medical Board are great at this. So we need the same for sober living homes. The state needs to create a database to track facility histories so families can make informed decisions in placing their loved ones. We also need to create financial reporting requirements, including audits of billing practice, which will reduce insurance fraud. This year alone, U.S. Attorney has indicted operators of 2 Huntington Beach sober living homes for receiving kickbacks from body brokers who refer patients to their facilities. The state also needs to do regular inspections and invokes stiff penalties for fraudulent activities. If sober living home facilities are evicted from if sober living home residents are evicted from their property, they usually become homeless with no local connection or way to get home. We need to help these individuals. And as I mentioned, as mentioned previously by other speakers, we need to help them. They need help, and that's what we're here. We're not saying to not have these facilities, but they need to be a facility that has results, because that's what their family are asking for, and that's what's going to help them. Throwing them out on the street is not the right thing to do, and making promises to help these individuals will not, and not even being able to fulfill it is wrong. So we here stand united in Orange County, and we will continue to fight the state and making sure these regulations get where it needs to be. So I'm grateful to be able to speak here on this very important issue, because that map that you saw from the supervisor, that's mostly in my district. Thank you.
Yes, these are, no pun intended, sobering facts that we are dealing with in our communities. Now I'd like to turn it over to Elizabeth Steele, President of New Directions for Women, and we've invited Elizabeth to be here because New Directions for Women is an outstanding organization that is truly helping women be rehabilitated from their addictions, and it's just located in Costa Mesa. And when I visited, I'm very impressed. But this is the kind of facility organization that truly is organized around excellence and can make a difference in the lives of people who desperately need help. So please, Elizabeth, if you'd like to come forward and tell your story. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you all for having me. My name is Elizabeth Steele, and I'm the CEO of New Directions for Women. And I'm here today really as an advocate for the need for quality treatment here in Orange County and in California. As I'm sure you're all aware, we are in the midst of an opioid epidemic that is taking more than 100,000 American lives annually. Overdose rates have soared, and mortality rates have soared with the influx of drugs like fentanyl into our communities. And programs like New Directions are needed in order to help save lives. New Directions was founded in 1977 with the support of the Junior League of Newport Harbor to provide support and care to women in need of recovery. And we are the only facility in Orange County that will provide treatment to women with children residentially, that will detox a woman at any stage or trimester of pregnancy, and we really value the health and the safety of the clients that we serve. With that said, there is a need to ensure that quality treatment is provided, that individuals are using evidence-based practices or outcomes-focused, and are providing treatment that is person-centered. With the bad actors that are out there as well, there does need to be regulation, which is why there are lists available for programs that are suspected of fraud or who have historical violations. It's great to be here today, and thank you guys for having me.
Yes, we asked Elizabeth to join us because this can be done well with committed leadership, management, And really, you're actually operating beyond the laws of the state of California, even doing more than the minimum standards, which are really reflected and indicated in the audit report. So I commend you. So thank you, Elizabeth, for all the excellent work you're doing for our communities. Also, we have Sarah Schneider, who's with Southwest San Clemente Alliance, and she's going to talk about her experience in San Clemente. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Sarah Schneider, founder of the Southwest San Clemente Alliance. I'm also a candidate for City Council in San Clemente District 4. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today on this issue. It is very personal for me and has affected my neighborhood and my street. San Clemente has had an influx of for-profit detox businesses in residential neighborhoods going completely unchecked. As a resident of San Clemente, my neighborhood was directly impacted when a for-profit business owned and operated by a convicted felon with a long history of lawsuits and troubling business operations purchased 3 consecutive homes for $5 million each on a very small street with 40 children and elderly, no sidewalks, in an old narrow road where 2 cars cannot easily pass. We further learned that the website advertised for patients to travel from all over the country and rotate through every 30 days. Who was monitoring these homes for safety and quality of care? Nobody was, unfortunately. We learned our city wouldn't be allowed to license, inspect for safety, or regulate in any way if this for-profit business owned by private equity procured a state license. 3 homes in a row would bring in dozens of patients from a national brokerage network, and nobody was making sure this was safe. How would they arrive? Driving themselves? By Uber? How much added traffic would there be? How would emergency vehicles access these homes on our small street? Who was making sure they were well cared for and they had a place to go when they were done with their 30 days? Nobody was. No doctors were required to be on site. There are so few regulations, the opportunities for fraud and poor outcomes are staggering. This was not right. This was not right for the children and residents on our street, and this was not right for the patients. This industrialization on our street would have massive impacts on our neighborhood, changing the very fabric of our street and exposing us to safety risks we were not equipped to manage. The solution for our community seemed simple. Keep detox operations in mid-sized healthcare facilities and allow group homes to be regulated and zoned by cities. Allowing the for-profit detox business, some of whom are paying $40,000 a month in rent, to proliferate unchecked in residential neighborhoods is not acceptable. How does this help with housing affordability for families when businesses are pricing out neighborhoods? They are on a totally different economic scale than families. I mean, no family could afford $40,000 a month in rent. We are thankful to the legislators standing here who are helping take action on this issue. We are hopeful that addiction healthcare will become safe, transparent, and regulated, giving patients the quality of care they deserve and neighborhoods the safety they are entitled to. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I think that concludes our speakers. So I just want to conclude with a few comments. So I want to commend our state auditor because this is a very important report, audit report, that reveals what we don't know and how these facilities, whether they're a alcohol addiction rehabilitation facility, you would think that people are being rehabilitated in those facilities. They're licensed, but patients are not being rehabilitated. And then there are DSNS, the Department of Social Services, another state agency, is responsible for the rehabilitation, the medical rehabilitation. Now that will be, as a result of all of us working together to see how we tackle these issues that have been revealed, DSS clearly has to look at how they're managing and auditing through an audit process. I'm not accusing anybody of doing anything wrong as much as wanted to shine a light on how it's being regulated or not and what we can do to make it better. And also on the senator mentioned sober living homes. That was not the subject of this audit. I did not really, that's one of the learnings I learned, is that the audit was not designed to capture DSS. I knew that, but sober living homes did not get captured in this because they're unlicensed. I mean, just the being able to have to say sober living homes are unlicensed just doesn't make sense. I think we all agree that we have a problem in California. It's a regulatory problem, ironically, and this is an issue that needs to be addressed. So I plan to be considering, as all my colleagues will be doing as well at the county level and as at the state level, legislative proposals based on these process recommendations, and specifically to the county. It will be instructive how Proposition 1 funds are coming in and how what role the county has to manage this with new state regulations.
Well, we get to control
Yeah.
how the money is
So
spent.
that's a good,
And our focus is on our campuses.
yeah, so that's a good note that we will look forward to. And we have identified a number of areas where more data is needed for treatment and recovery facilities, and we will be determining the scope of our follow-up and our audit requests. So this concludes our press conference. We are now at the beginning, just understand, we are at the beginning of steps to propose process improvements. This is all about process today, and the lack thereof, for the Department of Healthcare Services, as well as expanding our scope of interest to include the Department of Social Services and unlicensed sober living facilities. So we're not done, we're just beginning, so stay tuned as we work this through our various legislative bodies. And I want to thank our speakers today, and thank you for all being here, and we're all united in finding solutions. So I want to open it up for questions, so I will turn it over to those. Oh, I want to also mention, we are represented by Councilmember, Assemblymember Connie Petrie Norris's office is here, and State Senator David Min's representative is here, so thank you both. So if you have questions to those legislators, feel free. All right, anyone have a question of any of us? You were thorough.
Hetty, you have a question, Hetty.
Is looking at me. I have many questions, and we'll start off with just, if I wanted to open a facility in Orange County in a neighborhood, right now, as the state regulations are, in place, if any, what steps do I need to take to open one?
It depends on the city. So
Okay.
it depends on the city. If you
So-
want to open one in Costa Mesa, then it's if you would like to open a facility in Costa Mesa and it's not a state licensed facility, or in any county unincorporated area and it's not a state licensed facility, then you would have to go through a permit process at the city or the county level. And that process does include a review and analysis of concentration. So whether or not there's, I think at the county level it's 750 feet, at the city level it's 650 feet, but don't quote me. And whether or not there's another facility within 750 feet of that facility, whether state licensed or not. So it's a process. For all the other cities, if it's 6 or fewer, you don't have to do anything. You would just rent or buy the house and.
Oh, no, the state, you require a license.
No, I know, if it's unlicensed. Rent or buy the house. If it's licensed, if you want to have a licensed facility, like a detox facility, for example, those have to be licensed. Then you would have to go through a state licensing process, but it's pretty easy and generous.
Well, and that's the problem with, it's a very good question, thank you. And that's been the workaround for these small facilities of 6 beds or fewer. They do require a state license, but ironically, the reason they're going to a state license, the operators are creating a smaller facility, is because now the state license. And I think what the audit just said, the state's really not doing an effective job to manage and investigate and do the follow-through on process and procedures. So the operators are realizing it's better to be licensed, ironically, better to be licensed by the state of California than if you were 7 beds or more, then you fall under the city rules, and they don't want to be regulated by the city. And so that's why this audit report has really shined a bright light on this, is that even though they're small facilities, they're congregating, and therefore they are institutionalizing these patients, and it needs to be regulated. So it's kind of a big aha moment to see how they skirted the law, and we need to bring it back in. But the smart ones have really figured this out. And sadly, the bottom line is people are not getting well.
Well, and I'm gonna give you an example of the difference when you're licensed versus not licensed and why it matters. So, recently, as this year, the state had licensed we had licensed facility, and we were, going through our background clearance here at the county. And, we realized that the owner of the facility, the manager of the facility, was not complying, wasn't responding to our county health care department. And so they did an investigation, and this person was a felon who had been on the lam from another state, I think it was Arkansas, and had been convicted of drug charges there in Arkansas, and had moved to California and opened up a detox center. And so we immediately contacted the sheriff. We were able to have that individual arrested and moved back to Arkansas. And, you know, we were grateful that we had a system in place where we had background checks. The state licensing process, no background checks are required. So that's the major difference. I mean, as a person who has a family member who needs treatment, I would not want to send my loved one into a facility where they don't even do background checks. You're sleeping there overnight. You might be at in harm's way. They don't do background checks for arson, for sex offenses, for any kind of felony. And so, to me, that's a major difference between what the cities and the county are doing with regard to regulations that are rational, reasonable, and intended to protect people versus kind of the free-for-all that is being allowed at the state level.
And the supervisor earlier mentioned there was a death in Newport Beach, and it was a person in a DHCS facility, and that person was going through detoxification process. No medical personnel is required to be on site, and there's no supervision. So this person left the residence. He was sleeping in, staying in the middle of the night, knocked on a neighbor's door and broke down the door, and there was an altercation, and he was killed for invading that property. So it's just, this is just ripe for better laws and regulations to help people get the help they need. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I have a question. I'm a resident of a city that has a high concentration of sober living homes in my neighborhood. Is there anything down the road or in your minds, what you're working on, is to regulating the number of homes that can be housed in a square mile?
Well, that's part of the concentration issue that we're going to attack, and that was identified in the audit. The proximity.
It's ridiculous in my neighborhood. And the other thing is, what can we as citizens do to protect ourselves? We are one of the neighborhoods that children are being followed home. There's drug paraphernalia in the street. We had
Do you report to the police? Do you report to the police?
Oh, yes, and we had a home invasion of sorts at one of our residents because the guy was on fentanyl and he was let out of the home just into our neighborhood. There's a lot of issues that we're facing, and we're very serious about it, and we need to know as a community what we can do, what actions we can take to protect ourselves.
Very good question. I will say during this audit process, what was the part of the data collection that the auditors reached out to the communities to get were the number of reports to the police. So don't hesitate. Don't ever hesitate on it for any circumstance where you feel your life is in jeopardy or your safety is at risk. The police reports are very helpful in identifying the problems, and it's a matter of public record, obviously. So just report it to the police. One more question. Yes, sir.
Hi, Andre Ramirez from Fountain Valley Neighbors, where there's a lot of blue dots right there, unfortunately. First of all, thank you for all the work you're doing. We know it's tireless work, especially when you're meeting resistance in Sacramento, but we really do appreciate all that you're doing. One thing we can do, we were wondering about, similar to Mary Beth's question, is nuisances that these neighbors create. General nuisances. I don't care if it's just a regular bad neighbor or a tenant in one of these homes. Is there anything that has been considered that can be employed faster in cities across the county around just nuisance neighbors? I know Newport Beach does have one that is directed probably for college parties, but it is something that is there, that is on the books, that could be used. Was anything like that considered?
Well, I'll speak, and I know others may want to address this, Supervisor may as well. What I learned at the city level, if it's a nuisance that applies to everyone, college kids, just normal, regular people, but if it's a code that is intended to apply just to residents of these facilities, it's against the law, so you cannot discriminate. So again, my same response is report a nuisance, a quality of life issue. If it's noise after the, whatever is reasonable or unreasonable noise, you should report it. Now, right now, hopefully this will change when we work through the process of convincing people we need to tighten up these laws. But right now, that's really all you can do.
Can I speak on that?
Sure, go right ahead.
One thing that we learned this year is in Laguna Niguel, which is where I live, they're having the same effect. They have 3 detox treatment centers within a very small area. But what we found is when they're doing violations and they're writing letters or emails to the state saying, hey, here's a violation we see, we need you to come out, they're putting all the violations under one category. So when they see a violation, all they say is, oh, there's one violation, even though there might have been 80 violations. So that alone was very eye-opening, and it's, so yes, the law enforcement will always say, please let us know so we can keep track of this. And I think that's really important too, that their voices be heard too. Look at our first responders. They're in these neighborhoods left and right, and you've got kids being, coming in going, what's going on in our neighborhood? They have other emergencies they need to deal with, but they're spending a lot of their time doing that, and that's not just all their job. But that's one thing we do definitely need to do, and I can tell you about this audit. I mean, we sat down and looked at it going, we could make a lot of bills that need to be done right here. So it's almost like it's dissecting and going, all right, let's look at regulations, let's look at what we need to do. But we've got to allow the state to give the cities and the counties local control again. As soon as they took it away from us and basically put the cost on us, we lost everything. And because this isn't specifically across California, it's really hard for some people that live up north or central California to understand what we're going through. And I think that's really important, and having all of you here and now with this audit, eyes will start waking up, because this also affects our businesses. It affects the economy. We've got a cost of living that is, gone sky high, and it affects everyone in what they're trying to do. So do know that I know this group right here, and we won't stop, and we never did. We've been working on this for 12 years. We went to DC when I was Laguna Niguel City Council mayor. They had never heard of what these were. And then they were able to find out what was going on. I'm like, put one in your neighborhood. You'll know in 25 minutes, what this is. So do know that we are fighting for you. We won't give up. And we just need to start putting pressure up at the state and pulling the curtain back so people understand who's actually opposing these bills. Thank you.
And I'll wrap us up with a response on the nuisance issue. So City of Costa Mesa, what we decided with Mayor, who's now Mayor John Stevens, we hired a lawyer, and a couple of lawyers actually. And we have been, well, the city now, I'm not there anymore, has been suing the operators that are bad operators and that are creating nuisance, real nuisance in the neighborhood. And those lawsuits have been winning. Oh. So if you want to get an example, then you should reach out to the city of Costa Mesa, have your city manager from Fountain Valley, reach out to the city manager from Costa Mesa or the city attorneys and have them talk to each other. Cy Everett is somebody who has been handling those cases for the city. And the city of Costa Mesa has developed what is a very good model for how to regulate, because again, we want people to be able to get professional treatment and care. But the key is that you can't take over a whole block in a neighborhood and turn it into a medical facility, right? In a single family neighborhood. That's the issue. So medical facilities should be in medically zoned areas. People living together sober, not hurting anyone in the neighborhood. I don't know how my neighbors live. Who cares, right? But when you have businesses coming in and taking over whole blocks and not managing their clients, that's when we have problems, and that's why we need the regulations. Thank you.
You want to say anything from Newport Beach? Well, you're okay. One other final point, thanking everyone. What I learned that the laws that govern these facilities, the law was passed, enacted in 1984. So the population of Orange County and the population of the state of California has increased dramatically since 1984. and this issue. And certainly, I can't speak for what they knew then, but it's highly unlikely that they understood the gravity or the explosive nature of this law and what it was going to do to drive all this drug treatment to Orange County. I mean, if you have a problem, a medical problem, and you want to get well and sit on the beach in Newport Beach and Huntington Beach, you know, it sounds good, but it's not helping people. So again, thank you. We're just getting going. Follow us what we're doing, and we're going to be listening to all the problems and doing something about them. And we need help in Sacramento. So at some point when you hear from my office or Assemblymember Davies or Supervisor Foley at the county level, I often say, if people are up there speaking on these bills, real people who experience these issues in person, it can have a good effect. So stay tuned when we say come up to this particular hearing. It may make a difference. So again, thank you all. Appreciate what you're here.